everybody, welcome back today. Super exciting day, like they all are. In our effort to always bring you the very best in the industry to, see how they got to where they're at and some of the cool things that they're doing. I'm very excited today to have my buddy Wyatt Reed, an investor out of Pulaski, Tennessee, which is sort of like bottom central-ish, north of Huntsville kind of area.
Yeah, it's like perfectly centered between Nashville and Huntsville, so I feel
Yeah.
like I'm in a good spot.
Yeah, so like from the sticks, man, you can tell from that accent. He talks like people from Tennessee should talk. So, dude, happy to have you on here. You were
Yeah,
just in town the other day. We were trying to do this in office, and we ended up going out and drinking and having a good dinner. So we're,
yeah, it was
we're,
great.
we're
Steaks,
relegated.
steaks and drinks were
Yeah, Korean steakhouse, which was pretty wild. So cool, man. So for everybody who doesn't know you, and there's got to be a couple people out there, give us a little background, man. How'd you get into real estate, and what were you doing before?
yeah, man. So I was a college dropout. Obviously, I went my first year, partied too hard, came
Yeah,
home, and had my first baby at 19. So it was pretty wild when I got out of the house. And but it's funny though because I was going to school to be an engineer, and
hmm,
like I said, flunked out. But within 2 years, I had worked my way up from a line worker into maintenance into an engineering role with an engineering salary before some of my buddies even graduated with an
really?
engineering degree. So
Wow,
that was that'll tell you a little something about work ethic. I hated school, but I could work, right.
right.
So I kind of got to where I wanted to be at an early age, around 20, 21. I was the engineer. I had the money that I thought that was good, and I had just gotten married. I had my kid. I had a nice new house that was just built. I had a nice car. I'd made it to where I thought that I wanted to be, and
Yeah, you hit all the things, right?
yeah, the white picket fence, the American dream, right?
At 20.
And
Now what do
yeah,
you do?
exactly. That was like I was like, man, this is not what I want to do the rest of my life. And I had an older gentleman who really kind of mentored me as an engineer, and he was, I think, in his 70s, and I really looked up to him. He was like family to me. And when COVID hit, he lost a lot of his retirement, and he was going to have to work pretty much for the rest of his life. And I told him when I made that decision to do something else that, I love you to death, but that scares the crap out of me. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to be in that position working in the same job, when I'm 70. And so,
What do
like
you
all,
what do you
oh,
think it is that kind of made you that way? Like you kind of fear that lifelong job, that 9 to 5 thing with the 401k and all of that. Where do you think that comes from?
that's a good question. I mean, my parents were entrepreneurs. My they own a restaurant. Even though they never really made it to that working on the business, rather working in the business, they were always there and always broke their backs to make sure we had a great childhood and lived a nice life. My grandpa, he had multiple businesses. So I think that's probably where it came from. I just always have felt, even like from when I first started, I've always felt like God created me for more, right?
Yeah.
I had more of a purpose than what I was being used for at the time. So
Yeah. I mean to interrupt you. So were your parents supportive of you going to college, or were they like, because you know how entrepreneurs are now, like college is dumb, you don't need to go to college, which I am not a proponent of. I think there are definitely some benefits to college and depending upon your job, but were they like supportive of college?
yeah, absolutely. They wanted me to go to college. They actually paid for my first year, and after I flunked out, man, they were like, "Hey, you can continue to go to college if you want, but it's on your dollar." So I actually got a 2 year degree. It took me 4 years to get a 2 year degree,
Yeah.
and I got it in engineering management and technologies, and it was an associate's degree, but I call it a BS degree because I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure be complete BS, right? Just to check a box. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well,
they, when I actually quit my job, they actually had told me, my dad was like, "You need to go back and beg for your job back because that was
um,
stupid."
really? Even though they ran businesses, they were like that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I do think there's something, where you said you were called to a higher purpose. You just knew you were destined for something else. I felt the exact same way, and it didn't always manifest itself in like, oh, I'm going to run a business like my own company. But I came from the retail background. I'm like, oh, I could be president or vice president of this company. I could be a district manager. I could do something like that. And I think that is a commonality in a lot of entrepreneurs. Like we see that we can do bigger things, right?
Yeah.
I find that across all the people that I talk to. Everybody has that inside of them, right? That I'm going to do something bigger and better.
Yeah, I even as an engineer, my goal was to become a director, right? That was the big time. Become an engineer, become a manager, become a director, right? And but when I started to really hang out with these guys, and that was something else that I did. When I seen who I wanted to be or where I wanted to be, I would find those people and hang out with them and see
Mhm.
what that life was all about.
Yeah.
And man, I'll be honest with you, they were always there. They lived in the factory. They were
Right.
always on call. They were always on Zoom calls all the time throughout the night. They were always drinking all the time, and they were all had a horrible family life. And I seen that coming into the real estate game too, of some people that I really looked up to, and so it's very interesting once you really get into it and really start hanging out with people. You and me talked about this. You kind of see once you pull back the curtains what people are really about.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, I think in the beginning, as we've started, multiple businesses. In the beginning, it's hard and it does take a lot of time. And the one thing about entrepreneurs is we've got that mindset where we can get very focused and zero everything out and just make sure that we make the thing successful. That's why there's such a low success rate on people who start businesses. But yeah, it's during that period it can be terrible for your personal life and your family life, right?
I
Like,
lost a lot of friends, man, and they say that you gotta pick your table wisely and keep the friends around you that are gonna push you. But I do think, like, stepping back now, I probably did ruin a couple of good relationships because I didn't put focus on them. Like
mhm,
that was a big problem, and I done the same with my family as well.
sure.
I was able to fix that, but there were some friendships that I just completely screwed up.
Yeah. Do you think they would have been good friends today in the sense that, kind of in the direction where you're going, or they would have at least understood it?
They were friends that would have put everything down and been there at
Mhm.
2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe not completely understood where I was going, and maybe not the kind of people that you could talk about success with.
Yeah.
Those people, like, you
Sure.
talk about making 100 grand in a month, and some people are like, awesome, let's do 200 next month, and
Yeah.
some people are
Yeah.
like, oh, big money over here, you bragging. So
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I still have some friends that I've had since I was a kid. We're not as close as we were, but we're still friends. And when we talk once every couple months, it's just like forever. But yeah, I believe that you do have to surround yourself with the people who are like, let's do 200 this month. That you need, whether it's proof of concept or just being around those people, like, oh, if these people can do it, I can certainly do it. They're no better, no worse than me.
yeah.
So you got started. It was during COVID when you started real estate. Like, when
It
did you
was
actually start?
it was right before. It was probably a year and a half
Really?
before COVID.
I thought
Yeah,
you'd been doing this for 8 or 10 years. I didn't
no,
realize it was
just
that short.
right at 5 years. I think it was August of 18 or
Mhm.
19. It's
Oh,
almost been
okay.
5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tried to do it on my own for about 3 months, and listen to Bigger Pockets, read the books, went
Yeah.
and looked at MLS properties that I
Yeah.
shouldn't have been there, right? I didn't have any money. I didn't know where to get money.
Yeah.
So that's when I hired my first mentor.
What, like, how did real estate even get on your radar? So because you're, doing engineering things and doing all that. Like, how did you even like think, oh my goodness, I need to do this. This is what I want to do.
Well, I sometimes don't like to say this, but as all good millennials do, I am in that millennial bracket. I went to YouTube and I said how to make money.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
simple.
And I seen Chris Crone in a BMW i8 walking through a mansion. Probably didn't own either of those things, but I was like, man, this is what I want right here. And things change, goals and aspirations change throughout. But I was like, I'm not going to send Chris Crone $30,000 to teach me. He's in California to teach me how to invest in North Alabama,
Yeah.
right? So I went to Aria and found a local guy there
Mhm.
that kind of taught me the ropes in the beginning. Taught me how to get my first deal and gave me some
Yeah.
resources.
And that's so important, right? There's, the great thing about real estate is anybody could do it, but like you have to learn from somebody. One of my mentors is like, I could read everything I want about the UFC. I could read every single book. I could watch every single video, but there is zero substitution for getting in that ring and getting punched in the mouth, right? So you have to have somebody that's got some experience and can show you and at least guide you on the path, right? Because it's going to make your learning curve so much shorter.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I've easily dropped over six figures in the last 5 years on mentors.
oh,
Once it was a struggle at first
yeah,
to make that decision,
yeah.
but after that, any other mentor after that was just here. Let me pay you and teach me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know anybody who has not paid a mentor that's been successful, man, with the exception of like one guy. And I just think he just was in the right area and was just surrounded with people and, said, "Hey, I'll work for you for free." And, now this guy's worth over $100 million. But like, there's, you just have to be around the people that are doing the thing that you want. Like, I don't know
Mm.
of any other way to do it. And clearly you were at least smart enough to do that back in engineering world, to get around the managers and see that, like, you at least recognize that that was important, which is really crucial, right? Getting out of the kind of the, I don't want to say the existence, but the kind of the reality that you're in. You have to put yourself in the reality where you want to be. So
Yeah.
cool. So you get a mentor and started doing deals. Like, how'd it go?
Yeah, I think within the first 3 to 4 months, I had a couple of deals going.
Hmm.
They were some ghetto rental properties. They were
Yeah.
maybe renting for cash flowing $200. That was after everything was said and done. But it seemed like there was always something going wrong: a water heater, an
Yeah.
HVAC, but pest control,
Yeah.
eating up the cash flow like crazy. So I had to start getting into like flips and wholesales because the rental properties that I thought that I wanted to do weren't producing what I thought.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting that you went to rentals first. Was that what your coach suggested, or just what you thought you wanted?
So I actually told him, I was like, I don't want to do wholesale, and I think it's pretty scammy and spammy, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But when I started to get around bigger people, like I started getting around you and Don Costa and a couple other guys, Brian Tripp, and
Yeah.
going to these events, I realized that you don't have to just be a wholesaler. You can be a well-rounded investor. That's just one strategy out of
Right.
many, right? And so that's the whole trick is to have good marketing and get
Yeah.
leads coming
Yeah.
in. And
Yeah. And that's one thing most real estate investors are great at, because we all start broke, or the vast majority. 95% of, I think, real estate investors, all of us started just dead broke. So we're very good at, bootstrapping and guerrilla marketing. Yeah, rentals is a tough place to start out of the gate, because it is very low cash flow. For me, I started in Florida doing fix and flip, which is great because that pays really good. And then when I came to Chattanooga, I had to wholesale just because I needed to put food on the table for my family. And then we got into the rentals. So it made it, and I was building rentals while I was wholesaling. So one kind of offset the other, and it was, that's why we were able to make that work.
yeah, I mean, if I would have known what I knew today,
Yeah.
I wish one thing that I would have definitely changed is I would have seller financed instead of just buying
Really?
properties. Like, and that's all I would have probably done is seller finance because you get the capital up front and
I
your cash flow is like so much more,
I
right?
know, man. I know. I disagree with that, but I get it. I get it. But you're also young, right? Like, how old were you when you started? Like,
Yeah, I was like 22, 21,
yeah,
22.
dude, I was 40, right? So I looked at it a lot. I get why you're saying that. But if at 25 you sold something on a 30-year note, at 55 that cash flow is done, right?
Right,
That's why I
right.
don't like it. For me, I started at 40, so I didn't want to be 70 when all of a sudden all that cash flow just stops. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because
Yeah,
let's be honest, nobody's saving jack, right? Like, we're all spending it or reinvesting it into something else.
absolutely.
So, that's a great strategy if you're buying it in your 401k and all that money's going back in there. But uh, you know, that's the only reason I like rentals more, is because it will just keep paying forever and ever and ever. But it's a job and you have to manage them, right? So
Yeah.
there's definitely a trade off. But in the short term, that's certainly okay.
I think like you said, in the short term, that's great. I like storage facilities
I
for
know.
buy and holds. They're just so much better. They appreciate more.
Mm,
You know, if I'm going to hold something, it'll probably be storage facilities.
yeah,
I've had two. I do plan on buying more, but
yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'll buy A to B class houses maybe in the future, but that's not what stage of life I'm in right now.
Sure. Oh, and yeah, also I what I tell people is that's work for me. That's my business. Everybody's got to do their own thing. Yeah, but when I started, I was like you. I was dead broke. I was buying things on owner financing, and a lot of the times the types of properties you get are not the best. So
Right.
so yeah, they are very labor intensive. But fascinated by storage units. We talked about it at dinner a little bit. Like because I've never bought one. So to me, it feels like this great white elephant of taking it down. But like, talk about that. How'd you make that transition to storage units? What's the difference on like how you determine if it's a deal, like your due diligence? Like, kind of dig into that a little bit for people.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not a storage guru. I may or may not be doing it right. I don't. You may have to ask Alex Pardo about that. He's the storage guru, but um, I had it fall in my lap. We were doing text messaging marketing at the time, and we hit this guy that had a big portfolio, and he was like, "I don't want to sell any of my single family homes, but I do have this storage facility I'll sell you." And I was like, "Well," at the time I was in Steve Kavanaugh and Alex Pardo's Ascend Mastermind,
Hmm.
and they almost everybody in there was doing storage, and so I took it to Steve and I said, "Hey, tell me what you think about this. I'm gonna probably buy it." And then he sent me like 5 pages of due diligence
Oh my.
on how to properly do it, set up by like a ton of different gurus and systems and processes to use. And that was super helpful. I probably paid a little too much for it, but it was my first one.
Hmm.
It already had a fence. It already had a kiosk. All you had to do was lock it out, lock
Yeah,
people out. And I think it was in like 15 days after certain things that you do in 15 days, you could throw all their stuff out.
yeah.
And you don't have to deal with the toilets or the anything like that, squeaky doors. And it's so much more simple to kick people out, right, for not paying. Um,
Because storage units, are you making more money per? I guess per door. And is the money more?
I think it's just the ease of
Okay.
the investment because you know it's completely different than a multifamily home because in the apartments you get anywhere from $700 to $900 per door, right? But in the storage world, it's $50 to maybe $200 a door. So it's not as cash flowing as an apartment complex would be. I mean, obviously, if you bought it right,
Yeah.
it would be good. But they appreciate very very well from
Really?
what I've seen. So both of ours, one of ours was in the middle of Huntsville. It was great, and the other one was out in the middle of nowhere. So when we decided we were going to buy storage facilities, every
Mhm.
Friday, me and my partner would take 2 to 3 hours off towards the end of the day, and we would drive one way an hour. And we would just write down every storage facility we found, the old mom and pops, not
Yeah.
the big industrial ones, and we just call them. And we would essentially make soft offers based on what they told us about the income coming in, the
Really?
gross. It was always completely wrong because there was never what they said it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's how we got started in the storage game.
You didn't want to just pull a list of just you without driving.
It is more complicated than pulling a list of
Really?
single family homes. Yeah, with prop stream and list source and stuff,
Mhm.
you got to be very very strategic in that. So
So
plus,
when you were driving, was it just like randomly? Let me see if I drive by a place. That was it.
yep, that was it, man. It was kept driving for storage is what we called it,
Yeah.
and it was great. I mean, we probably made 3 to 4 offers every Friday, and
Mhm.
we had at one time we had 4 or 5 under contract, and we ended up closing two. So
Mhm.
that was pretty good.
Yeah. So you were closing to hold, not the wholesale or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't even know you could wholesale
Wow.
a storage facility at the time. So
Nice. Wow. Fascinating. I love it. And you've sold both of them off now.
We've got one still,
Oh,
and we sold the one in Huntsville.
mhm,
That was a crazy story. There was a homeless camp in Huntsville. The
mhm.
city kind of fenced off where they were, and it
Yeah.
pushed them to our storage facility. And
Oh,
so we had a storage facility, or we had a homeless camp inside of our storage facility, like
yeah.
within 2 or 3 days. And we went from, I think, 60, 70% occupancy right after we bought it. We were working on getting people in to like one or two people that were still there.
Oh my god.
Luckily, thank God, we
Just
ended up just
renting
like,
them to the homeless people would have been
yeah,
cheaper.
it was terrible. We tried, there was so much that went on. We were there multiple nights, and that was about an hour drive for me. We were
Yeah.
there multiple nights with the police, and it was crazy. But we did end up selling it, and we made about 20 grand on it. So
Wow.
that was a blessing, man. But the
Right.
other one is it's good. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's nobody's breaking in. And there's a little office space in the front of it that we
Yeah.
used to do events out of, but it was sporadic. So we just put somebody had a business and they put a business in there, and now
Yeah.
it's every month. So it's great. That
Wow.
one's good.
Wow, that's wild. That would have been some good content rolling up on the homeless encampment at 2 in the morning, going through your unit,
Yeah,
looking
I
like
wish we
Top
were
Gun
doing.
there with cameras with the lights on. It would have been great.
Yeah, I wish we
So
had content back then.
yeah, I know. So what are you doing now? You still flipping, wholesaling, rentals? What do you got cooking?
A little bit of everything, man. But like I said, seller financing is my priority right now. I've got a goal that I in the next couple of years that I want to hit as far as gross cash flow or
Yeah.
gross income coming in from the portfolio. Um, so that's huge. I do have two flips on the market. I have three wholesale deals that are already assigned and just waiting to close this month. So I still do quite a bit, but the portfolio is my primary source. Like that's what I focus on.
Nice. Well, the properties that you're bringing into your portfolio, how are you buying those? Are you cash, private money, banks, owner financing, sub two, some variety of all of it?
A variety of all of it, man. So I'll just most of them come from just using the Burr method instead, leveraging other people's money,
Uh-huh.
refinancing out of it. But instead of putting a renter in there, we put a tenant buyer in. But I'll tell you this: like last month, I got 8 properties through seller financing. It was $330,000. I used somebody else's money to put 10% down. It was 30 grand down. Used somebody else's money, 5% interest, and
Nice.
so yeah, I'll be turning around and seller financing, wrapping them for probably 12% interest.
All right.
I've
So back
already
up a little bit I'm sorry, for people who don't know what BRRRR means, which I feel like is the craziest name in all of real estate, but explain really, and for people that are new, what is BRRRR? What does it stand for? And what does it mean?
Yeah, that's really how I got started with the rentals, right? It's just an exit strategy. It's a model for rental properties. It's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. You buy with somebody else's money, you rehab it, and then you put a renter in there. It's got to be an income producing property if you take it to the bank, right? And then you refinance with the bank.
So when you're evaluating a property to decide if you're going to BRRRR it, what's some of the stuff that you're looking for on the front side?
Yeah, it's got to meet two rules, like all the time. It's got to meet both rules. So for me, the 80% rule. So I've got to be all in under 80% because the bank's only going to refinance me 80% of the appraised value, right?
Okay.
So I've got to get all that hard money lender their money back, or it's going to rack up a lot of interest on me.
So
Uh,
let's say when we're done, it's going to be worth 100,000. So you can only be all in at 80. So literally you have to buy it at like 50,
yeah,
25 ish in, so that you're in there, because the goal, right, is to get all your money out and pay off whoever you borrowed the money from.
yeah, absolutely. And if you get a good enough deal, you can pull cash out too. That really helps out, but that does affect your cash flow as well. So you got to
Sure.
be very careful. What do you want? Do you want cash or do you want cash flow?
Right.
Um, and the other rule it's got to meet for me is the 1.2% rule.
Okay.
So, bigger pockets and other people teach 1%. If you buy it for $100,000 and it rents for $1,000, it's a good deal. I
Right.
disagree with that. With the interest rates now as high as they are, even the 1.2% rule doesn't really do very well now, right? So if I buy it for 1,000, at a minimum, it's got to rent for 1,200. for me to do it.
Nice. Excellent. So you got a bunch of those, and what else is going on? You're doing a little bit of stuff, helping some people. I know you got some things cooking.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when after probably my first or second deal, I always have had a heart for serving and helping other people. And after that first or second deal, I said, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I embarked on learning how to coach people, right? And so my first mentor helped me out. He kind of taught me his model. When I decided to branch out on my own, that wasn't really the model that I wanted to follow. And I had just been introduced to Steve Kavanaugh
Right.
at a coaching event. And I got into their mastermind, and Steve taught me his coaching model, which was like a mastermind one-on-one model. And that really launched me in the right direction. But I found out pretty quick that when you're doing one-on-one with people, it takes up a ton of your time, and
It does.
I could only take on like 10 to 12 people at one time.
Yeah.
Money is good, but it's I want to help as many people as possible, right?
Yeah. You have to charge a lot to make it worthwhile. I've done a few of them. I don't coach anymore, but when people come and like, I want you to coach, I'm like, don't do it. I really want you to do it. I'm like, okay, it's going to be stupid expensive, but
Yeah.
if you want to pay it, I'll do it.
Yeah, and then I met Tom, and he said if anybody ever asks you to do a one-on-one again, he said it better be no less than $50,000. And
Right.
I had my mind blown, right?
Mhm.
And so Tom taught me the community model.
Yeah.
And like I said, the first year I done Steve's model, which was amazing. It really kicked me off,
Yeah.
but I only got 10 to 12 students. When I
Yeah.
started and transitioned to Tom's model, I had 36 students in the first year.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and the one on one, it seemed like it was so stressful because it was so hard to get people to collaborate together. I wanted to build something where people were working together, and it wasn't working out. I tried to get them together in masterminds, and it was tough. And so when I started this community, I started seeing other people answering questions in the group. I seen people getting their first deals from other people in the group, and I seen people raising funds together and sharing contractors and resources. And like I'm in here and I'm answering questions and stuff too, but it's amazing to see how people just step up, you know.
I love the community model. Like I get one-on-one coaching if that's what you want, and I've paid for plenty of one-on-one coaching, a ridiculous amount myself.
Mhm.
But typically with those one-on-one students, they have one or two questions. I think they get so much more value out of being in a community because somebody else will ask the question that they don't want to answer. So you're getting so much more information kind of bantered back and forth. And then again, like you said, the ability to collaborate and do deals together and just learn from other people's so much better, and you can do it at a price that's affordable for more people, and you can help more people, which
Yeah,
that's our goal, right? Like that's why we invest, is to help sellers and help buyers. And when you can kind of get into coaching and helping other people, there's just so much value that you're bringing, because there's no place else to learn. Like, where are you going to learn to do this stuff?
yeah. It's huge also because I focus on getting them their first deal as quickly as possible. I've been a part of many, many
Mhm.
coachings and coaching models, and I think there's a lot of BS out there to keep people in and then turn people as quick as possible,
Yeah.
right? I didn't like that. I wanted to help people.
Mhm.
I make a lot of money in real estate, so that my purpose and what fills me up is helping people and coaching. The real estate's just a vehicle for wealth.
Yeah, I mean, I think helping people is what does give us fulfillment, right? Like I was just talking to somebody, my partner Megan. I don't know if you met her when you were in, but yeah, like I told her, we were arguing over who was a better teacher, and I told her it was me. She has a doctorate, and she was a special education teacher before running our title company, so it was a fun conversation. But yeah, I think that, like, for some of us, that really kind of fills up our cup, right?
Right.
Helping and seeing somebody else win. And then, when you get to a certain point in real estate, like, I just want to do deals with people that I want to be friends with, right? Like people that I, know, like, love and trust. Like those are the people that I get to spend my time with. I don't have to deal with dickheads anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and so
Luckily, we're at that spot.
my point that I was going to make, it just came back to me, was that when you treat other people as as they're important as I want you to be successful.
Yeah.
One of my top um, ways that I'm bringing in people in my community, my number one way to bring people in has been referrals. Other
Yeah.
people who are successful in my community are bringing other people in, and
Yeah.
that's blown my mind over the last like
Mhm.
3 to 6 months, right? And
Yeah.
so that's it's awesome. It's become an environment, a community, an ecosystem of
Yeah.
like-minded people who are go-givers.
That's fantastic. Do you ever get the feeling like, like why? Something I get this. Why do people listen to me? Like, why do people want to hear my nonsense? And then you'll be talking to somebody, or you'll be, on stage or doing something. You're like, oh, I know. Like, it kind of hits you. Like, oh, I've been talking for 20 minutes. I know things. Because we get so used to just doing this every day because it's the thing we do. Sometimes we just take it for granted that that
Dude,
we're doing stuff.
I don't know why. I get in my head a lot. I think a lot of people do, and some people just don't talk about it. But I got put into a group message with some guys that I really look up to, and it
Yeah,
was just 4 or 5 of them, and I was like, why in the world would they want me in this
yeah.
group? And
I,
then,
I get I get some of these people with national podcasts that just call me just to say what's going on. I'm like, oh my God, Steve Trang's calling me. Why is Steve Trang? What have I done to get on Steve Trang's radar?
right,
Hey,
and
man, what's going on? Or RJ Bates, or just all these guys, Tiffany High, or whoever.
yeah, and then we start talking, and they're like, "Oh man, that's a good idea. I think I'm gonna do that." And I'm
Yeah,
like, "Oh, okay.
it's
I do.
wild, isn't it?
I can provide value."
Yeah, yeah. It's a very cool feeling after doing this for so many years. So, well, cool, dude. Like, what is the like? Because I know people are going to be interested in working with you because I think when you're looking for a mentor or a group or a mastermind, you definitely have to find somebody that you resonate with, right? And you're like just a solid good dude. So lots of people are going to want to track you down and at least see what you got going on. What's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to Ascend Your Success, ASCEND,
Send your
yoursuccess.com,
success. Okay.
and you can fill out an application, and we can hop on a phone. I go through all of the applications myself, and you'll talk to me directly,
Nice.
or you can just find me on Facebook, Wyatt Reed, and we can talk there.
Sweet. And you'll work with students all over the country, not just in the hills of Tennessee.
Dude, we got people from California all the way to North Carolina, man, up to New York. That blows my mind too. That's so crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but the strategies that we use work every place.
Mhm.
Owner financing, sub two, Burr, wholesale, whatever. It works every place. Just the numbers are a little bit different, but the strategy works in whatever market you're in. And I know you're this way, but as long as you approach this from, hey, I'm here to help people. How can I help? How can I solve your problem? Right.
Mhm.
Plenty of money will come your way. Our job as investors, our first job is, I really feel like we should be in this to help people and really, really care about solving their problems. And if you are, the riches will follow. Trust me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Well, man, I appreciate you jumping on today. I know we tried this 2 or 3 times and we've struggled. So super excited to get this dropped. I know a lot of people are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. I love it. I'll be up in chat sometime, and I'll definitely stop by and hang out.
Come on by, man. Appreciate you.
All right.